I once read a story of a squatter in New York City. This couple that had an apartment in New York, and they decided to rent out one of their rooms for short-term rentals, more like an Airbnb situation for maybe up to a month. And they accepted the request of this lady who said she only needed a place to stay for a few weeks. She had already paid the deposit. She went through the agency and they said, sure, no problem. When she arrived, she said she was going to be arriving with just her daughter, but she arrived with her daughter and a dog. And the owner of the place said that she had a moment, like a sixth sense that said, maybe you shouldn't let this lady in. You know, what's she doing with this dog? She never said anything about a dog. But she was so flustered and she said, I'm so sorry. I couldn't get a place for the dog, but a friend is going to come pick him up tomorrow. And the apartment owner felt compassion for this lady. She felt really sorry for her in that moment. And she allowed her compassion to override her instinct and let her in. What ensued were years of insanity that she had to endure, the owner of the apartment, because the lady who was supposed to only be renting a room for a couple of weeks basically squatted in her apartment. Her daughter, and the dog stayed for years. And because of the insane squatter laws in New York and other places in other states, the owner couldn't get rid of her. If you were paying attention at the beginning of the story, I told you that it was a couple that was renting out the room in their apartment. It was a lesbian couple. They owned the apartment. And now I'm only referring to the owner of the apartment as a lady. Well, as it happened, to make matters even worse, during this nightmare that everything was happening, the owner of the apartment, her partner died during this process. She had a heart condition, which she believes that the stress of dealing with this squatter exacerbated and made worse. And the lady's partner ended up dying. And in the midst of her grief and loss, she still had to deal with this squatter. I just wanted to clarify that for those of you who are paying attention. She kept calling the police. She kept trying different things. And the police said, we can't do anything. And she's been living here with you. Then she has rights. We can't get her out of here. You have to go to court. And the court has to be the one that determines that she gets evicted. Before that, we can't do anything. So the lady spent months and a lot of money trying to finally get a court notice. And I believe she actually got the eviction notice, but then COVID hit. And evictions were stopped. And she had to endure this woman and her mess in her apartment. And what was super disturbing about this is that the lady who stayed in her apartment against the owner's will not only took over the bedroom where she was renting, and she stopped paying, by the way, very quickly, but she also took over the living room, one of the bathrooms, and half of the kitchen, with all the junk that she kept bringing into the apartment. And the owner was left to barricade herself basically in her own room because she couldn't even go out into her living room because it had been taken over by this woman and her daughter and her dog and her junk. And there was nothing she could do. She just felt helpless. And each time, things just got worse and worse and worse. It just felt like a nightmare. I think that the last update I heard is that she eventually was able to get her out of the apartment after years of enduring this. But I remember being kind of traumatized by this and thinking, I will never let anybody stay in my house or my apartment because you never know what's going to happen. But these things happen. And when I was reading the complaint, the lawsuit of Justin Baldoni, describing how his production of It Ends With Us went from a passion project that he invested his own money, his own time and effort into bringing to life, and it became Blake Lively's movie, it made me think about that squatter. How you can go from inviting somebody into being a part of your life, into being a part of a project that you worked on, and then slowly but surely, the person using whatever privileges and leverages that they have to not only not leave, but to take over your project and kick you out. It's crazy. It's insanity. I was able to go through pretty much the entirety of Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And I want to start by thanking the YouTube channel IQ because she literally sat down and read the entire thing. She read the whole thing, the summaries, as many of the screenshots as she could from texts and emails. It was over 5 hours of information. And so whoever's running that account, shout out to you. I wouldn't be able to even know what I was talking about without your help. I'm going to link both videos below because I really want you guys to, if you're interested in going through the whole thing, she has it all there. The more I know about this case, the worse Blake Lively looks, but also her husband, Ryan Reynolds, is coming out in this whole thing as kind of the Machiavellian villain. And to be honest, I don't think this is going to bode well, not only for their careers, but even their marriage. And this could be a stretch, but I truly believe that this is going to affect their relationship when it's all said and done. I don't think, after all this evidence that has been put out there, I don't think any one of them will ever have the career that they once had, that they could have had in Hollywood. But let's break it down as much as possible. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the details here. Like I said, I linked the videos below so you can go through everything. As we've been discussing, Justin Baldoni, who is the director of the movie It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively and himself, the project descended into chaos. Blake manipulated her way into taking over this movie. If you were looking at this from a critical eye, you could have seen there were signs that Blake really wanted to take over this project in the ways in which she manipulated Justin, in sharing stories about how she found herself many times in productions where her voice was being pushed aside. And she contributed so much to the projects. And people kind of pushed her aside and kind of just blocked her from even having access to some of the information on the movie. But when you think about that, and you listen to the way she talked about how she was being blocked so strongly from having her voice being heard by contributing to the script and then not being given any credit, it kind of paints the picture that there were other directors who saw her domineering nature coming, and they had to really put up strongholds to prevent her from taking over their movie. And the problem that I noticed in this whole situation is that Justin was just too nice. He was just trying so hard to let her voice be heard, to let her feel like a valuable member of the team. His whole brand is that he's a feminist. He's a feminist man, and that he believes in the equality between men and women. And I admire that. I love that. And I think that in his effort to really want to make her feel, no, this is not going to be like the others. I'm not like the other directors. I am a feminist. I'm going to let you be able to speak. That was his weakness. He went overboard in trying to differentiate himself from all the other men in the industry, from all the sexist pigs that push women aside, that don't allow them to have a voice. Justin drank too much of his own Kool-Aid. He really leaned in so hard into this narrative of him being a modern man and a feminist. And Blake took advantage of that. She took advantage of his desire to prove himself to be the ultimate good guy. And instead of appreciating him for that and cooperating with him to kind of encourage him to continue to be that way and to show other directors, see, when you give women a chance, we can work together and make something beautiful. That could have been the message, the positive message that Blake and Justin could have given the world. But instead, Blake saw his desire to do the right thing, and she took advantage of that, not to work with him, but to take over the project from him and remove him pretty much. As you read the details in his lawsuit, you see a progression of Blake asking for oh, can we meet and talk about this? I have some ideas. Hey, I wrote a little something. I hope you can incorporate this, to it devolving in post production into the Blake Lively show. And this was strategic on her part, because once the movie has cut, once she has filmed all the scenes, she can't be cut out of the film. So she can leverage her presence in the film to get what she wants. So she waited until post production to then say, I want to be in the cutting room with you so we can share ideas and we can talk about this too. You know what? I want to come in with my own editor and we should be able to make edits in the movie. And then it escalated to, you know what? I don't even want you in the editing room. I want me and my editor that I hired, that I trust, to be able to make edits, and then we can consult with you and tell you what's going on. Escalated to, you know what? You guys should pay for my editor. Then it escalated to, I have finished the film and I think my film is better than Justin's film. And I wanted to play in front of test audiences to show you that my movie is better. And even after they did all of this, they allowed all of this for Blake to do. And then they tested both versions, Justin's version and Blake's version, to audiences. And Justin's version tested better by more than 10 points. Blake put her foot down and said, if you don't release my version, I will have nothing to do with this film. I will make sure that it tanks. And furthermore, I don't want you to put Justin Baldoni's name in the poster saying a film by Justin Baldoni, because this is my film now. It is the movie that I edited. My cut was the final cut, and so it shall be. Why was this allowed? Why was this allowed when Justin Baldoni's production company paid for the rights to make the book into a movie? That was his project. He invited Blake into his movie the same way that lady in New York invited this woman to stay in her apartment, only for it to be taken over. And what's really sad about all of this is that after she got everything she wanted, the evidence shows, and I mean, again, we have not gone to court yet. This has not been solved. So if there is something that has been misrepresented by Justin, it will all come out in court. But Justin has presented actual receipts, texts, emails, communications. He has witnesses. But everything shows that Justin at each point just acquiesced to whatever she wanted. And it felt, as I was listening to the reading of the lawsuit, that Blake got everything she wanted by breaking him down. By every time she got something, she got more powerful and he got weaker. And the weaker he got, the more paralyzed he was. Because towards the end, when she said, I don't want him on the same red carpet as I am going to be on the movie premiere of the movie he directed, he can't be there at the same time. He cannot watch the movie in the same theater as the rest of us. Send him and his family and his guests to the basement. Why would he agree to this? There are only two explanations. Number one, maybe there is something that he did, that he knows he did, that was so terrible that he felt, you know what? If she doesn't want to be around me, that's fine. I didn't see it in his lawsuit. Obviously, he's not going to put the things that make him look the worst. But there had to have been something that he did, something so egregious that gave her the power to say, kick him out of the theater, make him watch the movie in a basement, surrounded by soft drinks and bottles of water, so that he's not in the same room with me. It was either that, or she had beaten him down so much that he had completely lost any sense of personhood, any sense of self-dignity. Just like that lady in New York, after a while, she just stayed barricaded in her bedroom because this stranger took over her apartment, and she felt that there was nothing that she could have done to get back her place. I feel that Justin, if what he's saying is completely the truth and he didn't leave out some major event that maybe will come out when Blake's side of the story comes out finally in court, it just seems like Blake, as he was getting weaker, she got stronger, and she understood the power of psychology of, the more I beat you down, the less likely you are to fight me on this. So I am going to push you to your limits. And every time you let me push you, I'm going to push a little further and push a little further. And at one point, when I was going through some of the text messages between Justin and his team, there was one time when he was talking to a friend about how painful it was to watch something that he had worked so hard, something that he had given his heart and soul to, been taken away from him in such a vicious way, and how he was going to try to be able to move on from this. And it broke me. I literally burst into tears when I was reading that part, because if you remember my video, The Blessing of Not Having Pretty Privilege, I talked about the fact that growing up, I didn't really feel like I was ever going to be the cute girl, the pretty girl. And so I decided not to think about my looks, but to focus on other things that I could control, like being smart and kind and being the kind of person that other people wanted to be around, and just doing my best, just trying my very best to do the best work possible, to be the best student and the best worker. And that was going to be my calling card in the world, because I wasn't going to be able to rely on my look. That's how I felt even as a little girl. And in thinking that way, I became the kind of person that, to my own detriment, I became a perfectionist that really identifies with her work, with what she presents to the world. Look, I did this. I hope you like it. I hope you approve of this. And by approving of this, you think that I'm a good person. And so my work means everything to me. It's not perfect. Dilma, this is not about you. Let's get back to the topic at hand. But the point I'm making is, I understand what it means like to put your heart and soul into a project, and for it to be something that you want to present to the world as kind of contributing your own value to the world and hoping that it gets appreciated. And seeing how this project, this passion project, was taken away from Justin, and wondering if he too is somebody who wants his work to speak for him. I cannot imagine how difficult that must have been for Justin. And it seems to me that Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, was kind of the force behind this. And there's a lot of theories out there that Ryan was jealous of Justin Baldoni. Justin Baldoni is way more attractive than him, and he was spending all this time with his wife, and Justin and Blake were having these intimate scenes in the movie, and maybe Ryan Reynolds, in his rage, he just decided to get in his wife's ear and turn her completely against Justin, to the point where even she felt that Justin Baldoni was this horrible person. I think when it's all said and done, we are going to see that it was a combination of those two factors. Ryan just wanting to destroy Justin Baldoni for being this attractive, intellectual guy that speaks to the hearts and the minds and the aspirations of women in a way that Ryan Reynolds just can't. And getting to spend all this time with his wife. And when you look at some of the communications between them, between Blake and Justin, Blake she was kind of pushing the lines of inappropriate. And to his credit, Justin pretty much kept it professional, according to Justin's the information he put out. Let's wait and see what Blake has. But from everything that we can see, it seems to me that Ryan Reynolds was a little afraid that she might be getting a little too close to Justin Baldoni. And he decided to get in her head to the point where he maybe manipulated her into thinking that Justin Baldoni was the worst thing in the world. And also Blake Lively's blind ambition, wanting to have her voice be heard in the movie, and then pushing the limits of her power to the point where maybe she herself was surprised, like, wow, I can't believe I got away with this. But actually, you didn't, Blake. Because after she got everything she wanted and the public started to criticize her, she decided to push even further by accusing Justin of all these horrible things. And I have to say, one of the most disgusting things that I saw in Justin's lawsuit, in Blake's complaint, she alluded to the fact that Justin, one time when he was sharing too much information, according to her, he shared about a situation in which in the past he was involved with someone in a sexual scenario or in a sexual event where one of them didn't consent. And she left it vague enough that most people reading, including myself, assumed that he must have shared with her the regret that he had that at one point in his life, he may have engaged in some kind of sexual activity with a woman. And now, as an informed, enlightened man, he wasn't sure that she had given him consent. That's what it came across as. But in Justin's lawsuit, he kind of alludes to the fact that he shared such a scenario with Blake, but that what he shared with her is that in that sexual situation, it was him who did not give consent to what was done to him. And the fact that Blake would use language in her lawsuit or in her complaint, because first there was a complaint and then there was a lawsuit, that she would twist things to make it seem as if he was the aggressor and not the victim, that is as low as it gets. And when I read the way in which Justin was progressively beat down and kicked out of his own movie, I believe that when Blake put out this information about him, when she put out this complaint and this lawsuit against him, she really thought that Justin was so beaten down and broken down as a man that he would just lay down in the fetal position and say, I'm so sorry. He was going to release some kind of a public statement saying, I am so sorry for everything that I did. And I beg you to please forgive me. And I'm so sorry in all the ways that I failed you, Blake. I think that's what she expected. She did not expect for Justin to just kind of wake up and say, wait a minute, this is crazy. Everything that has happened to me is crazy. And it stops here. It ends here. It ends with me. That should be Justin's next movie. It ends with me. And it should be a documentary about this whole thing. It is insane that Blake would have thought that she could have gotten away with this. And the only way she could have thought that is because I think she's in awe still of how she got away with taking this movie from this man. It is really, 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 really sad what happened in this movie. And if everything that I've read and seen from his lawsuit is the truth, I want him to get his justice. I want Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to pay dearly for what they did. I want them to have to pay so much money that maybe their production companies have to go into bankruptcy. Okay, that's a little too harsh. What I really meant to say is I hope that the financial penalty is so high that they feel it to the point where they never, ever do this again to anybody. That's what I meant. I want their careers to suffer the consequences of what they have done to this man and how they have turned so many people against him and almost destroyed his career because of blind ambition and jealousy. I think it's terrible. I think it is horrible. It is despicable. And they deserve to pay the price for it. That is my opinion. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see me do more commentary. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it. Please share it with others if you think that this is a valuable video to the conversation. Also, watch other videos that I have done. Thank you so much once again, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.